When this program is initially airing, we are at the end of January. It is the last full week of January. It's 2022, and we are here to witness it all. One of the things that I've been witnessing lately is just how easy it is to get off track when it comes to food choices and emotional eating. The excuse of it being the holidays or never having a never ending snow day is definitely gone. We are well into the new year. And I was thinking it is a most excellent time to bring you today's guest. You are about to meet Paula Yolles, the owner of Mind Body Food Freedom and founder of the End Emotional Eating with Ease method. Paula helps women release emotional eating and negative mind chatter about their body, health, and food so they can consistently eat healthy, be energized, and enjoy their body. Paula draws on her 20 plus years holistic health and emotional wellness background to bring non-judgmental openness to her teachings of how to release the most deeply rooted roadblocks so you can have peace with food for good. Paula is trained in the Healers Program, Ignite Your Power Chakra Mastery, EFT tapping, and is a meal garden recipe and meal planning professional. Hi, Paula. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, Sandra. I'm so excited to be here. To get to connect in a different way.
It is good to connect. I'm really excited to see you and to spend this time. What I'm really excited to for our listeners in the audience is to be able to hear the topic that we are going to be talking about today. Because as we get into this, as we learn a little bit more about you and what you're doing, the topic today is one that, well, we all eat. Paula, what you work on in the area of ending emotional eating.
That's exactly the area. Yep. I help women end emotional eating so that they can feel comfortable in their body and mind and thrive and be full of energy. And I totally agree with you. We all have to eat. We can't quit that. It's just not an option.
Well, that's why I'm so interested in this as a learning as a skill, going a little bit behind sort of just the initial responses, because it's not like this emotional eating, it's something that I think so many people can relate to, especially women. When have we not felt that we were really maybe not in control of the way that we were eating?
Yeah, it's very prevalent, and especially we're recording this in 2022, so we're still in this unusual worldly time that we're living in. Mm-hmm. So I think it's even more prevalent right now because people, men and women, are under so much stress. And we're mostly also working from home. A lot of us are going to school from home, so we're around our fridge all the time.
That has changed a lot. During this chat today, we're just going to have fun with it. And this is something where we're both coming to as subject matter experts. Paula, you run programs and you teach women on this. I'm just going to do a bit of a screen share just for a second to show people my journey. And so March in 2019, I had this picture taken on my birthday, not a photograph taken by me with angles that I wanted. It was straight on, and it was the last photograph that I took before 2 years later, I was able to shed those 60 pounds. I was able to maintain that. And this, I thought I'd just share that too. This is the same top. And you can see, so this is something that the girl on the left, she definitely was an emotional eater. And a lot of it, when I look back, excuse me, to a lot of it, when I did make the decision to lose weight, the key and why I feel I've been successful is because it's not about diet. I truly, truly went and changed habits, thought patterns, the way everything. I changed what I needed to do, because it wasn't going to be one of those. I wanted long-term sustainable, and I didn't want, so I don't want to be on a diet.
And did you have a trigger moment that got you to be like, I want this to change? Because I find in my personal journey, so I'm curious what yours is, and I could share mine. Have you had a moment like that?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. I'm really glad you asked that, because it was a combination of two things. In March, I saw that photograph, and that was an emotional hit, but it made me feel bad about myself. That wasn't what motivated me. Even though I use that as a reference point, I use it as kind of the before and after. That's not where the change came. So the change came when I was doing an interview with a researcher in the area of arthritis, an arthritis research scientist. And they were talking specifically about the strain on our heart when we have rheumatoid arthritis, and also if we are on any of the medications, and then specifically started talking about excess weight, and started to talk about how that also exasperates that. And I'm sitting there interviewing this doctor who I highly respect, and I'm like hearing this, and she said the words decreased life expectancy. So that was a ding, ding, ding. That I felt that. And then the thing about me, one of my traits that is sometimes a good one and sometimes a bad one, is I am stubborn. So I made the decision right there that I was going to do something about it, because it also, my ego, sometimes a good thing, sometimes not, clicked in. And I'm like, okay, I do a health and wellness radio show at the time. I'm talking about all this stuff. I'm presenting it as information. Girl, wake up, smarten up. And so that, and this, and I had been heavy since I was 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, and I remember that. That is, so it was like that was that moment. What do you identify with?
So for me, it was a couple of different things, but there was definitely one big push. But I had been emotionally eating also since I was really young. Like, I don't know exactly what age, but I definitely remember in middle school. So in like when I was like 11, 12, definitely emotionally eating then, probably started earlier. But then in my early 30s, I was late 20s. I was disconnected from myself emotionally. I was not enjoying life. I was just sort of doing what I was quote unquote supposed to be doing. You know, like I had a job,
Yeah.
I was married, I had a son, my son was newborn, and I was just putting one foot in front of the other. And on the outside, it looked like I was good and happy and fine. But on the inside, I was like totally disconnected from myself, not enjoying things. So one piece was like I had my new son who was born, and I really didn't want, because I know like how your parents or adults that you're raised by, their emotions impact your coming
100%.
and growing. Yep. So that was one piece that was sort of like lurking in my mind. And then the sort of big thing though that pushed me over the edge was one of my, and I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't telling my friends. I wasn't telling my family. I wasn't telling my husband at the time. Like I was just, going through life. And one of my friends who had known me well enough, she could see behind the facade. And she just said, I'm really worried about you. And then things aligned. And that's the piece that pushed me where I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to live like this forever with my son. And, I don't want him to be impacted by I was like situationally depressed. I was not happy. And then as things, I love like things just align, right? Like I put out the universe, like I want things to change. I don't want this to be like this. and a friend slash colleague of mine was taking a course, a healer's course, and she said, we need practice clients. You want to come and try it out? I was like, sure, I'll try anything, because I've always been in the health and wellness world and love learning and reading and all that kind of goody stuff, like I know you do too. And so I went and tried it, and I met her teacher, and as soon as like I was around him for 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I want more of this, whatever it is he's teaching. And that was it. I signed up for 2 years. It was a 2 years program of the healers program, and it totally transformed my life. It gave me the container I needed and to push into my emotions, and not, because I kept checking, I would check out of myself. I would literally kind of like blank out on myself emotionally. And that's often when I'd be eating, because I couldn't deal with whatever emotions got pushed up. And so in that, being coached through the 2 year program, that helped with that, and making small changes in my food. Those two combined, because I had done lots of different ways of eating over the years, and I had done therapy for years, but I'd never had them combined together with one person helping me through both of them together. And it just, it made a huge shift for me. So that was my tipping point, a little bit into further than that, but
yeah. And it sounds like it became something that you started to, as you started to gain more knowledge, your interest, it started to sort of like fill up that something that you were missing as well. I find that when we're in learning mode, we really get our brains engage, and so does, our passions and stuff like that.
So yeah, I love the learning. I was doing it for myself. I had no intentions at that time of making it into a career. Like, I just really wanted to shift my life. And like you talked about, like you wanted to lose the weight, and you know now that it's not really about the weight, but so many people, and especially women, come from it from the perspective of, I want to lose the weight. And I was overweight too. I was about 30 pounds overweight because of the emotional eating and being, not connected to myself. And because also when our emotions are literally stuffed down, our body can't process what we're eating as well. So it holds on to things more.
And I was very emotionally driven. To me, the entire thing for me is awareness. Awareness of, well, yeah, this does matter. And the reason why now is because I know how I feel. I feel better I feel better. Like you were saying, like when you were just kind of, you're just kind of like flat, you're not enjoying your life. Food has such an impact.
And I think you hit on, it kind of went snuck by, but I want to go back to it. As you said, you see the why now. And that's a big piece of what I work on with the women I work with, is them figuring out their why beyond the just losing the weight. Because the truth is you could be, 70 pounds overweight and feel as sexy as can be, and wear amazing clothing and have really good self-confidence. Or you could be 20 pounds underweight and you could hate how you look and don't feel good about yourself, and wear clothes that cover yourself up. It really doesn't have anything to do with the size or shape. It has to do with your why. What's propelling you forward in life to feel passionate. And in that, I find when the women can connect into that, which is really connecting back into themselves, into their soul, and to their heart and their passions.
Yes.
That helps move forward.
So identifying and finding awareness about this, to have people explore what is it that is driving their emotional eating patterns.
I totally agree with you 100% that, it doesn't need to, it doesn't need to get to the point where you're kind of hitting rock bottom in some
No.
way. And I think if you have the awareness that you're an emotional eater or overeater, stress eater, nighttime snacker, whatever word you want to use, I just use emotional eating as sort of the umbrella word, but there's so many. If you have the awareness of that, then that's sort of your aha moment to help you be like, oh yeah. And there's so much resource available. This is the thing, like I had been trying to stop it myself before that in various ways, and I couldn't figure it out. And we're humans. We love community. We love connection.
Yeah.
We're tribal people, and we get sort of shamed into thinking that we have to do it ourselves or hide it, or like I did.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
tell anybody, and there's power in support.
I don't want to miss on this, like that it's not something that we often talk about. There is sometimes if you're emotionally eating in response, and whether it's like, I mean, for whatever reason, it's not a good fit. That's usually something you're not talking about with friends, families, and coworkers. That's almost like a confession. It's often, not saying for everyone, but it's often a behavior that is done secretively. It is because it is going, it's your emotional response going there for comfort, for solace, or whatever that is. Yes, having the awareness, but then having the resources, having the tools, because we can have the awareness, but especially if we're talking about we're doing something in a response to something, an emotional trigger. If we don't have the tools to do something instead of, then then the food is our tool.
Yeah, exactly. And like an example of that is like I pulled my back out 3 winters ago, and I was on the couch for 3 weeks because I really could barely move. It was so painful. And once I got to the point where I was moving around and I was like, okay, I don't want that to ever happen again. I've always had an aversion to doing any kind of like core stuff, strengthening stuff, weightlifting, like all that kind of aversion. But I was like, I'm not going back there again. I'm not landing on the couch again. That was miserable. And so I was like, I need to get myself some support around this. So I've been working with a fitness coach and one-on-one. And she asked me almost every class, she's like, isn't this fun? I'm like, no, you're fun. And I enjoy spending time with you, but this is not fun to me, but I do appreciate I appreciate how it's strengthening my body and I'm stronger and
Yeah.
I'm not worried about my back being pulled out in the same way that I was, but and I just think that loving compassion, and she can see the vision for me that I can't see necessarily for myself.
Yes.
And she holds me in huge loving kindness and compassion, but she pushes me to the next increment without making me spiral into negativity or failure. And that's what I experienced personally also with when I was in the healers program and I transitioned out of the emotional eating. And it was that I was held in this huge container of love and compassion. And I actually learned to have self-compassion for myself. And that's something that's not taught in our modern society to have. And especially as women, we're huge caretakers, like you were saying, and so that self-compassion goes into the self-care kind of bubble, in my opinion, and having somebody else be able to see the vision for you when you lose track of it. For you, what do you feel like sort of you have gained from releasing some of your emotional eating? Or maybe
I started to look about when is it that I was able to be successful at making the choice I wanted to make. And there's nothing wrong if I chose to have a muffin. Of course, it's allowed. But if my intention is my choices, that's not, I don't eat that kind of stuff. That's not what I want to do. What was the difference for when I was successful? And what was the difference from when it was really, really hard? And Paula, it wasn't willpower. It was self-worth. It was how I felt about myself. If I had just left after having a crappy interaction with someone, and I was feeling that way, guess who needed that? Guess who was going to reward herself and have it very, very easily. But when I was feeling on top of the world, and I noticed it a couple of times when something just amazing happened, I had even planned to get me that snack, but I had forgot to even go and do it. I forgot that was that emotional response, here you go, task, pleasure, reward, with all that kind of thing. Even when I had planned for it, when I was feeling strong and good and self-worth, self-esteem, I didn't even need it. Why would I go off plan? This plan was what I was living in the moment was better than what I thought I would get from that. And that kind of was like kind of what you touched on. You were feeling, yeah,
disconnected from myself. Yeah, you just hit on it. Like willpower, like we all think we have to get our willpower back. I was literally just writing about that today. And I was literally writing about how willpower is really, it's sort of like a myth. Like we think we need to get our willpower back. We need to push through it. And it hooks back into, like I said, you need to think about the other W's, not the willpower. You need to think about your why and why. Yeah, why, your big why and your why. Yeah, who, and so it's so true. And that's just the piece. And I think there's different types of emotional eaters also. Like
that's what I wanted to talk about some of the different types. What does it look like?
So there's emotional eaters. Like I talked about how, like, I just literally, like, I used to just check out of myself. Like if any emotion just got too uncomfortable, I literally would like check out of myself. I couldn't think like what I wanted, what my choices are. And then I'd be eating because I wanted to soothe myself. So there's like that component. And then there's emotional eaters who, I also think there's always overlap. So I'm sort of like saying them as they're separate, but there can definitely be overlap. There's emotional eaters who it's become just habitual. So they're more like overeaters. They eat larger quantities. They eat a lot of snacks at night because, it's just sort of like a ritual in some ways. And it starts often when we're young. In our family patterns of how they were eating kind of oozes into our existence as adults. And then there's also emotional eaters who they have a whole diet cycle. Like there's a diet or emotional eaters where they try this diet and it works for a little while and then it doesn't. Then they try another diet, it works for a little while and doesn't. It's just sort of dieting cycle emotional eater. And it really doesn't matter which one it is. It's all about, right? It's called emotional eating, or we call it stress eating, but stress is our emotions, right? And how we deal with the stress. So it's really it's all about getting to the core of the emotions that are in there in our bodies. And a lot of it gets stuck in also from when we're younger and literally gets stuck in our, like, sort of our subconscious, and we don't really remember it. So having tools to be able to, in a loving way, acknowledge those experiences from the past and actually release them out of your cellular level or your energetic level.
Because it's like we're very habitual. These things, these patterns, these things that we just kind of do on automatic. Thinking about the emotional eating for the diet cycle, always looking to thinking, well, first of all, I'm going to start it such and such. You're going to start the diet then. And then if you're on a diet that I know of, you're depriving, either depriving yourself of different foods, or it's restrictive of portions. So there's a lot of rules, and generally,
the rebel always comes in.
yeah, and then generally not sustainable. So then we go into failure because
and shaming,
yep,
self-shaming.
yep,
Yeah, yeah. And so I really think like I said, when I was doing the healers program training, I was working through my emotions and making slow habit changes around my food. And I really don't believe there's one particular way anybody should eat. Everybody's body is different.
yeah.
I think there's certain things that sort of like we know, I think everybody knows like sugar is not necessarily helpful.
Across the board, there's no one particular way other than no, eating a bunch of processed food is not good for anybody. So, like real food, in no matter what form we find that. But yeah, there's so our metabolisms are different for so many reasons. And I also think that it can change throughout our lifetimes too.
Yes, I agree. It has for me, and I'm sure it sounds like it has for you. So I don't like, I eat a certain way for my body, but I don't expect somebody else to eat that way.
So you're not teaching people what to eat.
No, I'm not teaching you. Well, I should back up. That's not 100% true. So with my one-on-one clients, if that's something they want, we work on it together. I don't impose anything.
But you can offer that as a tool and a resource if they're needing guidance in that area.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And like I with some clients, they'll be like, I don't really I know how to cook, but I don't really know how to, I want to have more vegetables in my meals, and I don't really know how to do that. So I've done it's all online, virtual, but I've done some cooking classes with some one-on-one clients. Most of my clients I don't do that with, but one-on-one, I really get to know your individual needs, and I tailor it to that person's individual needs. There's certain things though, like habit-wise, like most of us are walking around dehydrated. Most of us aren't drinking enough. So in my one-on-one program and in my group programs, I make sure everybody's drinking, enough, water or healthy drinks, So there's some like basic things like that I ask everybody to check in about themselves and see where they're at. But I'm not going to tell you, you have to eat X and X and X, it's all, and that's the other thing, like the diet mentality is like, you do this, you do X, Y, and Z, or X, Y, and Z, as you'd say in Canada. So, so you do, you do X, Y, and Z, and you're on the diet. And if you don't follow X, Y, and Z, you're off the diet, right? So I don't believe in that. I believe in flexibility. So in either one-on-one or group, if someone says to me, well, you suggest this, but that won't work for me, I say, great, let's figure out something else that works for you. Because it needs to become your lifestyle, and it needs to work for you. So that's the thing.
People would always ask me, like with diets, when are my cheat days? And it's just like, well, I'm not on a diet. So I'm now I eat primarily sort of like the 80-20 rule, primarily what I refer to as intuitive nutritional keto. I'm not measuring, tracking numbers. I know the food I love to eat and do that. But then there's also the flexibility of bringing in things. And we just went through the holidays, and of course, and by choice, I chose to eat more of the things that, and again, it's usually in the carbohydrate category or something with sugar. And so then you do all that, and then so the weight starts creeping back on, and then it's like, okay, I want to keep those habits in check. I want to keep them, but
it's finding the balance. So I think it's the holidays are special times. There's a lot of memory foods for us around holidays, and it's social, social connection if we're with other humans right now. It's a little different, but, and, one of the things is I really encourage even to myself, it's like, if I'm going to eat it, fully enjoy it. If I make the decision that I'm eating something that I don't normally eat, I need to be a full yes, I'm doing this, and be fully present with myself and the food. So slow myself down and actually be present while I'm eating, which is a great thing to do anytime. But when we're eating, especially when we're eating something we don't normally eat, or we are feeling feelings coming up around it,
Yeah.
lean into it instead of check out of it.
Instead of like mindless eating, and be more mindful, be present. I really like that, because if you're going to make the choice that you want to have that cake, or you want to enjoy pasta, or you want to do whatever it is, make the choice. And here's my rule too: get something good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. Like I'll give an example. I'm in the middle of doing a retraining I'm also trained in chakra tapping, chakra empowerment tapping. And so and I'm redoing the training just to get more out of it. And so on day 2, we were doing chakra 2, which has a lot to do with our bodies and how we feel about our bodies, and sort of our stepping into our full power and stepping into our full vulnerability and connecting with ourselves. And it's in the pelvis area. So for women, it's, our life force energy area.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, my trainer, she said, her name's Margaret Lynch. Margaret Lynch said, she's like, chakra 2 is going to trigger your sugar. You're going to want sugar. She's like, because it really hits on wanting to like soothe yourself and, push up your emotions. And so, I knew that. And after day 1, when we did chakra 1, I was all like, it felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of day 2, I was like, oh, like I totally, because I need to release more in my second chakra and do more tapping on it. And so guess what? I made cookies. But I did make cookies with ingredients that I know won't make my body feel bad.
Yeah.
That are high quality ingredients. And I'm home alone. So like I went to a friend's house the next day and I brought 2 of those cookies to her, and I went for a walk with a friend and I gave 2 of those cookies to her. Like I had some and then I shared the rest. But because I was really conscious, I knew what I was doing. I was aware of the whole thing, and that's okay. And I ate it with enjoyment and with high quality ingredients. Like
the high quality ingredients too you feel more satiated, more satisfied. You really, really do, than something that's just, basically full of air and sugar and yeah. What kind of cookies?
Well, my son says they're Mookies because he feels like they're a mix of a muffin and a cookie because they're more soft. They're almond butter teff cookies. They have teff flour and almond butter and nuts and coconut, and they're sweetened with maple syrup. So they have cacao chips in them that has no sweeteners in them. So I really love them, and I'm happy to share that recipe if we could put it in the links for people if they want to make it. But I want to loop back around though to, you said, because I think this is a big thing that holds women back from stepping into honoring themselves and going on this journey to make peace with food, is that and I'm just going to be blunt, that it's used as an excuse. You said that you and David started this journey together at the same time. And that is a huge gift, because it does make it easier if the other adults you're living with are on the journey at the same time with you. And I don't want anybody to use that as an excuse, because my experience, from my own personal experience and from the women I've supported and seen, this is sort of my secret mission, but it's not really secret because I'm sharing it. But this is my secret mission, is that when one person in the household makes some kind of healthy change in their life, and in this case, we're talking about how your relationship is to food and really your relationship to yourself, and you're loving yourself more and you're feeling healthier and connected to your food more, it spreads out to the other adults in the household, and it can even spread, if there's children in the household, into that children's lives too. And that's my secret mission, is to get it not just for that one person, but it starts impacting their community. And so like that happened to one of my clients, Christine. She really just wanted to do it herself, for herself. She had some health stuff going on. She was like, I can't keep eating the things I'm eating. It's really impacting her health. She had some gut health things going on, and she had a husband and 6 kids. And she's like, but I'm going to do this for myself, even though it's going to be a lot of extra work. And her husband was not into it, but she was like, this is what I'm doing. And then we worked together, and she made the changes, and some of her older kids enjoyed some of the food, and her husband started enjoying some of the food. And we connected on and off over the years, but about 2 years later, after we were done, she was still doing really well. And she said that her husband had come over to eating healthier like she was, and more of the kids have, and it's just their lifestyle now. And she's not soothing her emotions with food anymore. So, that's my, so I just wanted to put that out there, because I don't want somebody to hear like, oh, if the other adults aren't on board.
Right.
A lot of people do use that as excuse.
And some people are just, I know I am guilty of it, I eat way too fast.
Right. And well, yeah, we all do in our modern society. So, and the devices don't help with that, like watching TV while we're eating, or, just being on our, scrolling on some social media while we're eating. We're not present. Like I said, like if you're going to make a choice to eat something that you don't normally eat, or you're like thinking, well, I don't really want to eat this, but I'm going to eat it. It's like, be present. So one way, I call them habit interrupters, is like you and David could choose once a week. I mean, I'm not judging you guys in any way, whatever, it's fine. I eat sometimes in front of the screen also. So, I do that too. Is like you could choose like one little tiny step. That's the thing. Like I really believe making habit changes in one little tiny step at a time. So it could be like, okay, once a week, we're going to commit to having them, or being really present, or just being like, okay, I am going to watch it in front of the screen, but I'm going to put down my fork in between each time, or I'm going to make sure I'm chewing longer, or, there's just little, I call them habit interrupters, because it becomes our habit.
So key. Yeah. So let's talk about the reality that doing this kind of stuff does require some planning. This is not at all about a judgment of what you're eating. It's the process of why you're eating, the emotional eating. Yeah.
Your relationship to yourself while you're eating.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I do also, and it is true that not eating processed food is just going to help your whole existence overall. I don't eat refined sugar. Like I said, I have maple syrup in my Mookies and my cookies, so I do eat some maple syrup and honey. I don't eat refined sugar. And I used to have terrible, terrible negative self-talk in my head, in my brain, about lots of different things. I would go around and around, like it's so hard to make decisions. I just like would beat myself up emotionally. Like simple decisions were just like looping over and over. And some people might call this or label it as anxiety, and when I got off refined sugar, that decreased by, I'd say, 80%. Like, and on the occasion over the years when I've had refined sugar, like if I go to a wedding and I'm like, oh, I would really want to try some of the cake or whatever, and I have a piece or I eat it for a couple days in a row, I quickly get back. It's sort of like a monkey.
Not interesting. Yeah.
It's just clear. I call those little self-scientific studies that we can have. So it's just really knowing what best supports your body. So
a lot of this stuff too is you become more mindful, and you are going to read labels if you're interested in that sort of thing. What are some of the things that you teach as skills for in the moment?
One simple one, I refer to tapping, which some people may not know about, but tapping is like it's based off of acupuncture or acupressure. You're literally using your acupuncture spots and tapping on them. So in the moment, if you feel the refrigerator, that whatever, that leftover something in the refrigerator, and truth is you can be an emotional eater on a huge like salad, like you could,
oh yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is, you could be emotionally eating on anything, a bag
or beverages, whether that be soda, coffee, wine.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about a pattern interrupter, and now using something that doesn't require willpower. Talk to us about tapping. Explain that a little bit.
So it uses your acupressure points, where they would maybe put the needles, and when you tap on those spots, and there's all different spots all over the body, when you tap on the spots, it takes the brain out of stress, out of fight or flight, into rest and relaxation. And it allows your body to calm down. You get more connected to yourself, because when we're emotional eating or about to emotionally eat, that's when we're getting disconnected, right? We don't want to deal with emotions, and it allows you to calm down and ground and connect to yourself a little bit. It allows your brain to relax and be open to other possibilities. So there's a whole process to tapping, but one simple thing somebody could do to help themselves, I really like this spot right under the collar bone, tapping there, because that's lung area that connects to the lungs, and lungs are about emotions. So tapping there, and just like if you feel, you're either standing already at the fridge with the freezer open, about to grab that container of ice cream, or you're standing at the pantry, or you've already started eating it, and then all of a sudden, and then you're like, oh, you can just stop and tap here, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and just do some deep belly breaths in through your nose, and breathe out, breathe in again. And if it's not comfortable to tap there, you can just rub there under the collarbone. That's fine too. And if so you're literally interrupting yourself. You're focusing on this. And because you're using the tapping point, it's sending a message to your brain. I'm not being attacked by something in the moment. Like there's no tiger coming. I can get out of fight or flight. And so then that can help you in the moment shift and be like, okay, I'm going to honor myself some other way.
And when you learn that works, it switches, because you're in some sort of distress, and you're reaching for that food to bring you down, and you have comfort. Instead, you're teaching ways to do something instead, but you're still getting that comfort and satisfaction. And that's the same thing. I use aromatherapy and essential oils to break that pattern, break that process. And what the key to understand is that this is not a tool just to stop you from reaching for that food. This is a tool to give you what you need, because you're reaching for that food for comfort, of some sort. And comfort might not resonate with everybody, but for the example, you're doing that because you need comfort of some sort. Well, what we're saying is that we don't want you to be uncomfortable. We want you to nurture and self-care and receive that comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly. Paula can teach you different ways to do that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and this tapping spot might not work for everybody, but it's possible it could work for you. So there's lots of different habit interrupters and and then the whole chakra tapping is really powerful. And I do that in my private one-on-one clients. And because it's for the brave who are ready to dive deep. But some of my one-on-one clients, they're not there. And we do what I call food freedom tapping, which is so powerful also, but it's just not as it's a different level. I don't know how else to explain it. So it's just one of the tools I use. I love it. I'm very passionate about it. So
when we learn these things, I know that when we go on do this sort of personal work and discovery, and take the time to learn about tapping, to learn about breath work, to learn about meditation, to do these things that are self-nurturing, self-loving, and and all around in self-care. We're so lacking that sometimes. Sometimes we take care of everybody else except ourselves. And there's that push. And then I know, and I'm just thinking from personal experience, you're dog tired. Maybe you're also in pain. You've looked after everybody else. Oh, I'll reach for that because we want something too. It's so interesting, Paula, what you said about the sugar and that sort of getting that monkey brain and having that brain fog and everything for that. What a relief to not have that, because that's exhausting and distracting in and of itself, right? To not be able to get that clarity.
It is. And when we step into making space to help ourselves relearn, like basically retrain our brains, right? We have so many wounds around our bodies as women, and I'd say nowadays it's even a lot for men too, with our modern society and social media. And and so much, like we said at the beginning, you have to eat, right? You have to eat to survive, but we have so many different stories from our experiences of growing up with the food. So when we say, okay, I'm ready to step out of this emotional eating because I don't want to do it anymore. I'm ready to figure out somehow to end this. And it actually becomes like you relax, you calm down, and all the emotional energy that has gone into beating yourself up, shaming yourself up around food and your relationship to food isn't occupying your brain anymore. Your brain being occupied with compassion and honoring, and you're stepping further into your true self. And it just starts shining out of you. I mean, that's what happened to me. Like when I was going through the healers program and I was stepping into honoring my emotional needs instead of eating it, and honoring myself and stepping more in connection to myself and connecting more with my food. That 30 extra pounds I was carrying on, I wasn't trying to lose it. Like I did not do anything intentional to lose the weight, but it literally just started coming off because emotionally I wasn't holding on to it anymore. And the simple food changes I made allow those to combine. And people were just like, friends and colleagues were just coming up to me and they're like, what are you doing? Because they just saw this. It wasn't only about that my body shape had changed. I was literally like glowing in a because I was loving myself and I was loving life in a new way.
Yeah. So you teach these programs. Do you offer stuff online?
I work actually all online.
Okay.
My business has always been online. So I work one-on-one with women to help them end emotional eating so they can shine bright, like I said, and step into their full present self and love themselves and enjoy their body no matter what shape or size it is. Actually, probably by the time this comes out, I'm launching a new group program. It's a 3-month program. It's called End Emotional Eating with Ease. And people and women can start that at any time. It doesn't have an exact start date. And in both ways that I work, either one-on-one, obviously I can sculpt it more to your individual needs. And the group, though, there's still weekly coaching by me and connection with me. And there's also videos and audios and handouts that you listen to or watch each week. And then you also have the weekly coaching, but it's a group coaching with me, so you have the community there. So it just depends on what is the best fit. So, and I also have a Facebook group, which is a great way to get to know more about me, right? So, and to be in a community, it's called End Emotional Eating Sisterhood. So.
Nice. Well, I will, of course, be sure to put all of those links into the show notes. And I just think that hearing about that too, one thing that I keep hearing is that you don't need to do this alone. You don't need to feel that you have to figure it out by yourself, that you have to have these discussions as your own private struggle, that there are groups where you can get the support, learn some of these tools, and be in community with others that understand what you're going through and experiencing. So I would encourage anybody who is watching and listening to this, if any of this has resonated, if you're thinking that it is time for you to want to change your relationship that you have with eating. And again, it's not so much with food, it's with eating. It's that emotional response. Thinking about just sort of what that might mean for you. I encourage you to take a look at what Paula offers. We kind of only scratched the surface, but I know I really wanted to do this because I know it's something that I'm focusing on again at the beginning of the year. And I know that I'm having so many conversations with people where we're kind of all wanting to get into that really feeling good state of mind. What else would you like to add for our viewers today?
2 things. Can I offer a gift to your viewers?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're kind of curious, like, well, because we've been talking about like things you can do to change, what could be the next best step for you to end your emotional eating, I like to offer to your listeners a complimentary next best step and emotional eating call with me, where I'll get to understand what your food struggles are and where you want to go. And then I'll share with you the best next step of what could work for you, whether that would be working with me or whether it would be not working with me. It's not about that. It's about really what's the best next step for you. And I will share that with you. And I just want to offer that as a gift. So we could put the link to my calendar.
Thank you. That is really a lovely and generous gift. And that can be the difference of someone just needing to give them a little bit of clarity. You work with this stuff all the time, and to be able to, what is the next step? That is, especially if you're all clogged up here and you're in this struggle, having to identify just like, again, what could I try? I love that. Thank you. I will definitely put that up.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just been really fun to talk with somebody else who's passionate about health and wellness and food wellness and emotional wellness.
I appreciate so much you coming on and having this conversation. So I wouldn't be surprised if you will see us here again talking around the topic, because we could actually do a deep dive in a lot of this. So again, this has been my conversation with Paula Yolles, and all of her information on how to end emotional eating is here in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with us today. Well, that wraps up another show. Thanks again to my guest, Paula Yolles, for sharing her wisdom on how to end emotional eating. All of her contact information, including how to get her free gift and her cookie recipe, are in the show notes. To listen to the podcast version, search for Chronically Driven wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you would like to watch the video, you can watch that over on the YouTube channel, The Wisdom of Wellness. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you next time.